Hey everyone, welcome to my latest video. This is a video about me painting this Wonder Woman that I printed from my 3D printer. Just quickly, maybe about a couple of years ago, I bought a 3D resin printer, and since then I've just been absolutely obsessed with printing, downloading 3D files from the internet and then putting them into the printer and printing them. You can get so many different types of models and figures and all sorts of things, and I've just been obsessed with printing these designs into my printer, and it's amazing. There's just something really exciting about starting a print, leaving it, and then coming back maybe 8 or so hours later and seeing the results. Sometimes it doesn't work and it's a bit of a failure, and you've got to just figure out what went wrong. So usually it's supports and stuff like that, but that's just another topic for another video, whatever. But yeah, when the print works out, it's really exciting, and a lot of these prints are in different parts, so often they take maybe 20 hours or so of printing, and then you glue all the parts together, and then you get this awesome looking model. Then what I've been doing is painting them and trying to make them look as, realistic as I can. And even that's a lot of fun, just doing that and figuring out how to do that. So I've been watching a lot of videos on the last couple of years on models and painting figures, and so now this is my first video that I've made regarding the painting of these 3D printed models. So from there I've been just gluing them together and then giving them a black undercoat and then a grey base coat, just as in from the top down, just to show the details. And then with some of them I've been going ahead and actually painting all the detail and all the skin color and all the different fabrics and things onto them. But I've actually just been enjoying the process of actually printing models a lot. So I've got a heap of models that aren't painted yet, and I'll eventually get around to painting them maybe one day. But I've just been enjoying the process of actually printing them a lot. So yeah, my shelf is full of half undercoated models, and just a few of them have been painted. I feel like this is like one of the best print jobs and paint jobs that I've done, and as soon as I saw it on cgtrader.com, which is where I buy most of my models from, I just knew that I had to buy it. So just looking at it from the design point of view, I just really like the look on her face. She's got this concerned look on her face. She's not being sexy or smiling or anything like that. She's got this concerned look on her face, but she's also got this pin-up style, so it's kind of is sexy too. So she's got this little outfit on with she's got this nice little cute collar on, and she's also got this a lot of muscle on her, as if she's been working out or something like that. So she gives off this this look of she's got a bit of strength behind her. Just the proportions and the stance, it's just great. So I just knew that I had to buy it and print it and paint it. So yeah, here it is. So this is the beginning of the process. These are the legs and a little part of the base. You can see there, they're coming off the printer, so they're still covered in resin, uncured resin. So I'm just going to put them in a bath of alcohol just to wash it off, and then give them an extra cure, and then here they are, all cleaned up. Now I'm just doing a test fit to see if everything comes together well, and there's a lot of sanding and fitting to be done. There's a lot of the little layer lines that you can't help with the printer that you get in between each layer. So here I'm just filling in with Tamiya putty, and same with the legs. And this process actually goes for a fair while. It can take a few hours to get all everything smoothed out. There's also other imperfections that you just can't help with the printing process. So here she is put together as a test fit, and she's looking pretty good. So she's ready for a wash and a painting. So here's the undercoat. I'm using some Liquitex black ink and some Citadel Abaddon black, and just mixed together and watered down a little bit, and it seems to work pretty well. And I like to get the airbrush and run some white through it and just spray from like a top down, like a 45-degree angle, and that way it really brings out all the shadows, and you can see the folds in her clothes, and it gives you a good idea of how to where to apply shadows and highlights. Now beginning here with, obviously doing the base coat for the colors of the torso, and just quickly have split this video up into all different sections of the body. So I'm beginning here with the torso. Mostly using the Citadel paints, running them through the airbrush. When they're watered down just with regular water, they handle pretty well through the airbrush. And just spraying on darker tones from underneath, and then a lighter tone on top, just to show the shadows and highlights. And I was just using the reference photo that was on the website, and just using that as a guide. I thought here that I'd try and really hone in on the details here, so I painted all the stitching on the jeans. I'm just sort of trying to look like they were jeans. So I did all those individual little stitches, and they looked really good. And also painted those stars on her hip there. And now I'm just adding in some sort of highlights, as in, I guess, to make it look like it's shining a little bit. So yeah, the base coat was done with an airbrush, and then some of the more finer details were just sort of teased out with just watered down paints, and just layering and sort of glazing them on to bring out the highlights. And yeah, front, I don't know, what do you call it, that motif thing on her bust there, I painted that gold. And yeah, here I'm just trying to get a nice flat white to sort of show for a collar, just to give it that sort of, I don't know, like a felt look. I went ahead and tried to paint a lot of texture onto the belt to make it look like it was like old and worn. So I did a lot of dot shading on it, just to show that the edges of the leather were worn, and it turned out really good. So that is the torso all finished. And onto the shield. Again, I sort of use the same technique with the belt on the shield. So, although it's a little bit different, as in I sprayed it gold, and now I'm just applying some, what's it called, the Tamiya panel liner, whatever it is, just to bring out to show the recesses of the shield. Now I'm just applying, I think this is just a wash, as in the Reichland Flesh shade from Citadel, just to show just to give it some texture. And now I'm just wiping it off just with some water. And now I'm just reapplying some gold, just to show that these parts are a little more like clean, as in maybe they're scratched or beaten or just used. And I painted this sort of fake sort of horizon line on the in the shield to show that it's sort of being like isn't reflective. And it turned out pretty good. And just finally just adding some white highlights on the shield. So that's basically the shield done, and then time for the legs. So yeah, just base coating the legs with some red, shoes, with some red and leather color for the other part. And just to match the clothing, I've painted that white stripe around the top part of her boot there. And same deal with the belt, I just sort of built up the colors slowly with layers of the, so just starting with a dark brown up into more of a leather color, and then adding all these sort of fake scratches just with this really fine brush. So with the boots painted, it was time to do the skin of the legs. So here I'm just masking off the area just so I don't get like paint or dirt on them. So for all the colors that I used for basically all the skin for the entire thing was a base coat of Catachan flesh, then Nightquester flesh, Citadel, and Cadian flesh tone, and up to Kislev flesh. So that was the 4 colors that I basically used for the entire skin for the whole figure. So most of it was applied with an airbrush on the bottom layer just to establish like the basic tones, as in the basic areas, and then I went in with a brush, as you can see here, and just painted in more, I guess, sharper transitions between the muscles. And then so this is just done with glazing. I think I just mixed the paint with glazing medium just to sort of slow down the drying time, just so I can mix the colors a bit better on the skin. I spent a bit of time on the legs, just blending all the colors together, and with the airbrushed colors underneath, it's got a really good foundation for where to apply the paints, just to bring out the muscle details. And so it looks a little bit shiny now, but then later on I'll just spray a varnish, like a matte varnish over the top, just to take off that shininess. Now onto the arms. The arms, just use the same process basically for the legs, but we've got the gauntlets here, but I just painted them silver instead of, as in, I painted it similar to the shield, but using the same technique, but this time just using silver instead. And then, so with the gauntlets done, it's time to paint the skin tones. So here I'm just applying a wash in between each finger just to bring out the details. I think it was Nuln oil, which is just a black wash between each crease of the fingers there. And just painting back in some details that were lost in the wrist. So here's just a progress shot. So the head's sort of undercoated, the legs, the arms are done, the shield's done, and also the torso is done. But there's still a few things to finish off, mostly the head. And you're just seeing how it's looking, and it's looking pretty good so far. Now onto the head. So just going to begin with blocking out the colours. So I've just started with some Abaddon black that's been mixed with water just to thin it out and allow it to spread around a bit easier. And yeah, so that was a hair painted black. with a bit on black, thinned out. And now her hair tie, in the reference picture it's yellow, so I'm just painting that in yellow. And then I applied like a flesh wash over it, just to show the recesses and stuff. And then I brought the yellow back in as a mid-tone to tidy up the parts of the wash that didn't look so good. And I was applying filling in the red of the star on her hair tie, and using the same process on the legs for her head. So went through the colors, like what was it again, the Catachan flesh for the bottom layer, spray that from underneath, and then the highlights went through Nightquester flesh, and then Cadian flesh tone, then the Citadel flesh, and some of those details were filled in with flesh wash around her eyes and nose and mouth, and just working out the details of the eyes, as in putting the whites of the eyes in and then putting the wash back in to tidy it up. Now I'm just using Blood Angel's red contrast paint for the lips, and just slowly working through defining the shapes of the jaw and along her cheeks. And here I've just got a little bit of Blood Angel's red mixed with Kislev flesh, just to bring in some colour in her cheek. Just apply it with the airbrush, as in a little bit of pinkish reddish hue. Now, yeah, painting in the highlights in the hair with just grey, as in just white mixed with black, and just sort of bringing in that little shine that you'd expect to see in black hair. And yeah, just trying to really get in there for the details and get the blue eyes in there. And here's just a point of going back and forth until you're happy with the face. So yeah, applying red on the lips again, fixing up the hair, painting the eyes. Here I've used airbrush just to sort of get a more of a gradual blend with the hair shine. And here I'm just trying to do the pupils and the little white dot in the eyes. So yeah, just starting with the black pupil first, and then I just use this little magnifying glass just to put the slightest, tiniest little dot in the eye, just with white. Now onto the base. I painted it in the colours that were in the reference picture. So I painted it blue and red, but then I just wanted to get some texture, so I just stippled on some orange in between, like in the red, just to give it some texture. And painted the edges gold. But then I was feeling like maybe the blue was just a bit too much blue for me. So, and I was sort of feeling like, I don't know why, I just felt like white would be better. So I masked off all the red area that I spent all that time doing the texturing on, and filled it in with this masking putty, which works really well. And yeah, just sprayed over the top of all the blue with some Corax white. And this is the result when you pull off the putty. And here I'm just adding weathering effects to the white, just to make it look a bit more used. So just giving it some texture, as if it's been painted and it's been sort of knocked around. And now just reapplying the gold to the edge, and then yeah, I think it just, I don't know, I just think it looks better. Beforehand there was just too much blue. So now I'm just doing some finishing touches. So I wanted to seal the work, so here I'm putting on just, I think I wanted to have all the skin was matte, like I sprayed all the skin with a matte varnish, but then I wanted to spray the boots and clothes just with a satin varnish, just to differentiate the clothing from the skin a little bit. And here's the final assembly. So I got all the parts all separately done and painted, and I'm happy with them. So here's all the separate pieces all brought together. And this is where it's starting to get pretty exciting. So after all this time I spent painting each separate part, I can finally see it all coming together. So the process that I used to fill in the glue and then fill in the tiny little gaps that were in between was just to put a tiny bit of super glue in the middle of the joint, and then around the edges you can see this grey stuff here, that's just the Tamiya putty again. So that was just to, and the idea there was that it would squeeze out in between the gaps, and then I'd sort of brush over it and clean it up, and then just sort of painting the grey Tamiya putty, which you can see it here. So when I get the leg on, it just sort of squeezes out a tiny bit of putty in between, but the super glue sticks it together really quickly. So I'm just using some lacquer thinner here just to blend in the squeezed out putty, and then I'll go in later and just sort of tidy up just with the paintbrush and paint over the blue just to hide that later. Now attaching the arms using the same process. And same for the head. A little bit of super glue in the middle, some Tamiya putty down the sides just to fill in the gap. And this is accelerator that I'm just spraying in here just to make the super glue go off straight away. That's a really good fit there. So that's basically all done. I've just got to stick onto the base. And yeah, this is it. And just finally, if you could like and subscribe to the channel, that'd be great. Thanks for watching. Peace.